I mean, the way that it made me feel, it was too much. And I fell to the floor.
On a pile of electrical cords.
On a pile of electric, and I'm sobbing, just sobbing and sobbing.
What if story is the answer to our crises of meaning and belonging, to our impulse to heal our lives and help others, to our desire and drive to leave this world better than we found it? Now, we love good stories. In fact, we're kind of obsessed, not just with the stories themselves, but with the stories behind the stories. Their oddly perfect timing, the healing process they provoke in their authors, and their capacity to catalyze individual and collective change. And we love exploring these with writers, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, healers, parents, and others. Tune in to hear these stories behind the stories and entertain with us the real possibility that whether you are a teller or a consumer, story is always offering or leading us to an answer. After more than a decade of finding freedom and healing through dialoguing with her Papa God, Theddee was inspired to write a story. And when her boss invited her to a retreat, she thought she was going to figure out how to get that book published. But her Papa God had another more important plan in the works. No one saw this coming. Tune in to find out how Theddee realized that her healing wasn't complete and that some of her tools were actually preventing it from happening. You'll learn how she healed recurring health problems through the process of engaging her story, and how she continues to find and share freedom through storytelling on her terms. Grab a cup of something yummy and sip on some story and sanity with us. All right, welcome to Sips of Story and Sanity, where we talk about the stories behind the stories with authors, speakers, thought leaders, healers, parents, and others. My team, Aaron, who's my son, my sister, Alyssa, and my clients turned friends turned team, Theddee and Lori, are here to help me make sure that we get the most delicious sips of story and sanity out of our experience today. And today we have one of our very own on the interview hotspot. So Theddee, I'm so glad that we get to hear your full story. You shared some of those scintillating tidbits in our intro episode. And so I know people are probably wondering what in the world happened at that retreat. And we're going to tell them today because it's epic. So Theddee Reyshelle is a hungry heart dedicated to knowing God so she can know who she truly is and the love that she is meant to be in her world. At 62, she's decided to honor her introvert and spend her golden years sharing her hard-earned wisdom by writing children's stories and adult storybooks for the child within. According to Theddee, it's never too late to give our inner child the love and affirmation needed to become all we are meant to be. Her first children's book, Your Invisible, Magical, Mattering That Makes You Matter, reminds the young and old that we all matter. So, Theddee, I'm so glad we get to tell your story today. And you heard me say we.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's quite the story.
It is. It's so good. So, let's go back to the beginning. You had this idea that you wanted to write something, and then magic happened, right?
Oh, yeah. So my first ever idea that I wanted to write a book, I was in a meeting where they took us through the process of you've just been told you have 6 months to live. They really took us there. And then we had to journal about what was important to us, what we wanted to accomplish. And I felt the grief of not ever having written a book. Like I had so much that I wanted to share and I'd never written a book. So I started writing. And this was probably back in the 1990s. I started writing and writing and writing and writing. Never really published or did anything with it, but that it became a real desire. And then my boss was going to Amanda's first Jumpstart Your Book retreat, and she was always taking me with her places, and she wanted me to come with her. And so I agreed to go. And that is when the story hit the fan.
It happened right away for you, didn't it?
It happened right away. On the call, the pre-retreat call, this lady that I did not know, named Amanda, said, you'll probably be triggered. Something will trigger you. Please don't back out. Just notice what it is. Notice what comes up for you, because it's going to be important to your storytelling. When you tell your story, when I do what? Tell my story. I wasn't planning. Wow. I had finished a book that was a storybook for adults, and fictional, kind of, in a way. Yeah. And so that's what I didn't know what Jumpstart Your Message, Jumpstart Your Book was. I just thought she was going to help me get my book into production. So, well, next week was full of triggers. I got triggered.
Silly you.
Oh my goodness. And at first they were little things that I had tools. I had been healing my life already at that point for a good 10 years or more. And I was 2010. Yeah. 15 years I had been working on healing my life at that point. And so I had a lot of tools, I had a lot of experience. And so I was using my tools to get over these little triggers that were coming up. And it was all around my nose being ignored, people going past my nose. I'd say, I don't want that, I don't like that, and it'd be forced on me. And then then it took me a couple days to get over it. And then I was already still trying to get over the last one when I got a huge trigger at work. And I to the point that I lost my ability to speak. And my body was shaking, and I was holding myself, and my body was shaking. And I was just horrified. It was the day I was going to leave to go to the retreat. And so I left early. My boss said, you need to go, whatever's going on, just go take care of yourself. And as I was a mess. So that is the state of mind that I was in when I wheeled my little suitcase.
Okay, so wait,
I
have to tell my side of the story. I don't even know if I put this in our book, in our chapter, and You Can't Make This Story Up, but I know it's in my book that, this was my very first retreat. So when you say that there was a call where I warned people they'd be triggered, I'm like, wow, look at me. That must have been like my co-author speaking through me, because at that point, I thought I was just helping people to write books. I really did not think it was going to be much more than sitting around a table and hammering out ideas and getting them in the right order. And then, voila, people would just be able to write. And so as we got closer to the retreat, I was also getting triggered, right? Because I'm about to step into a whole new experience. Like, I've never run a retreat before. And thank God I was in this beautiful place that took care of meals and things, but we need snacks, and I want to do gifts. And, it was like one thing after another. And I got grandma at home who needs a lot of my attention. I got a little boy at home. And I'm like, I think I might have bitten off more than I can chew. And then I'm going to show up. I get myself there. I spend, a few hours setting up the space and just trying to get there and calm myself down. And I think you were the first person who showed up.
Yeah, because I was early. I think it didn't start till 2, but I had left at work at noon because of that event. And so I'm walking up. I'm walking up and I see this stranger standing at the door to like welcome me. And it dawns on me, I have two rules. I try never to eat on an empty stomach, and I try never to meet people I don't know. And it dawned on me, I have just agreed to spend a weekend with a bunch of strangers. Holy moly. And here I was, just such a mess.
And one of those strangers triggered the hell out of you. Right?
I mean, maybe.
Oh my gosh. So, yes. So I just said, the only thing I could, where's my room? I said, where's my room? I didn't say hi. I didn't say nothing.
Yeah.
I was barely breathing. I just said, where's my room?
I mean, and she was visibly upset. This was like, I could see that something terrible had happened. Her face was red. She was just like short of breath, and I'm like, uh-oh, right? Because she's the only person, my first retreat, most of the folks that I invited, I knew. And so she was the only person, she was the only stranger for me. And so I'm like, are you Tammy? And she's like, where's my room? And I'm like, oh, there. I'm just thinking, oh crap, this looks a little bit like when we did, I was in a program where I was training teens with life skills, and we saw people, these poor young people just showing up all mangled, you know what I mean? Like life had really done them in before the retreat. And I was like, so that was my first clue that things were not going to go as planned. And then my second clue was that you just refused to talk for a few days.
I couldn't.
Right.
I was so traumatized that I couldn't talk. I couldn't think. My brain wasn't working. It just wouldn't work. I was listening to Amanda share and talk, and I was sitting there looking at her like, this woman is so polished and she's so young, and gosh, she's saying some awesome things, and but I couldn't absorb it. It was like, and she kept putting us in exercises, and my brain, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't think. It wasn't operating. And then she triggered me further, because she asked me, she was talking about going back, and I had just come out. I had just been working my way out of a cultic type religion. And she said to me, are you willing to go back? And I mean, we hadn't been talking about that. Nothing had been said, but that was what hit me. Like, why would I go back there? Like, no. And it came out of me like that. No. And she said, why not?
So this is the part where we were talking about, like, who are you writing this for? Like, who are the people who really need to hear your message? And for most messengers, the person that we're writing to is really the person that we were 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, however many decades you got back where the wound happened, right? That's usually that's the thing that we've overcome. So why wouldn't that message be for those people? And so that was the line of questioning that I was asking the entire room. And I didn't know anything about her life story yet because she hadn't really shared very much. And so all I got was the loud no. And so
no.
two.
And then when she said, oh, why not? I'm like, my middle finger was itching. Like I wanted to show her something I had never shown anybody before in my life. I was like,
I think that's the same feeling I get when she asks me what I think about a movie or TV show. It still happens to this day, just a little bit.
Oops.
I was like, oh my God, get out of my face. So that was my biggest exchange, I think.
Yeah, that
That
was
that
our
that
only
whole
exchange,
weekend.
I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was my words the whole weekend. Like,
And it was also, I was working with Doris then, and I remember that I was feeling everything that was going on, and I couldn't tell what was happening. And we weren't talking about what was happening. So I remember texting Doris and being like, what is going on here? Like, I feel so much. In the middle of the night, I thought my chest was gonna pop. And when I woke up and texted her, she said, that's not yours. That is whoever's on the other side of your wall. And I was like, oh no, she's having a terrible time. I'm all up in my head that I'm not like giving her what she needs, what she came here for. Is she going to ask her money? Like all this stuff in my head was just crazy. And then knowing that she was dealing with the physical level too, I was like, oh crap, what is going to happen? But that was the night that you decided that you were going to speak the next day.
yeah, that was, well, so she had said this, this lady, there up at the front, she had said, so we're going to be Saturday afternoon and then into Sunday. We're going to, take turns telling your story. You're going to take turns telling your story. And I was like, my story? I hadn't come there to write a story, tell my story. What story do I have? And the panic, I seriously, I felt like I was trying to get away, like crawl up the wall. Like I didn't know what to do with myself. Pure panic.
Yep.
And I'm laying in bed and I'm like, my brain won't work. I can't think. She's wanting me to tell my story. I'm going to be put on the spot. What am I going to say? And then in the midst of all the chaos and the like, my world was spinning and I couldn't like land on a thought at all. A song I had written many years prior came to me. And I thought, well, lady, you said go back. I guess I'll go back to that. Whatever that means, I'll go back to that. And with that, I'll just get up and sing that. That's my story, And with that came peace, and I was able to go to sleep. So then I waited. I was the very last one to go. So I got up, and I think I even said, well, she said go back, so I'm going to go back. This is a song I wrote a long time ago. And I began to sing, my heart of God hungers after yours. I want to know you. And when I stopped singing, my story came out. It just flowed out of me. Part of which was that I kept telling God that he was I felt like he was a vending machine up in the sky with all these wonderful things that I wanted and needed. Hope, joy, peace, all those, like, just, I wasn't even asking for great things. I just wanted to be able to live my life without pain. And I felt like there was no price tags on the buttons. So I kept putting in my quarters and pushing the buttons, putting in my quarters, pushing the buttons, fasting, praying, fasting more, praying more, and every once in a while, something would drop down the hatch and I would get it and it would nourish me. But I never knew why. Like, did I hold my mouth right? Had I finally fasted enough or prayed enough or suffered enough? Or, I didn't know why. And that was my frustration. And then I had heard about dialoguing with God. And I decided to try it. And the first question I asked him was about that vending machine. What is the secret to your vending machine? And the answer he gave me, it was unbelievable, set me free. And I had started healing my life that way by dialoguing with God and finding the truth in the midst of the suffering and the lies, the suffering, the lies that were causing me suffering. And so my passion was to teach other people how to dialogue with God so that they could have that same experience, that same freedom. And so that was my, then I curtsied and went to sit down. And Miss Amanda said, yeah, I was so embarrassed. I didn't know what to do. Yeah.
Because when she looked up, so for the entire weekend was like 4 or 5 other people there, and everyone was holding space for her. Like everyone was like, rooting for her quietly. Some were trying to talk to her in between stuff. And so when I don't think any of us really thought that you were going to stand up that day. Like you hadn't really participated in any of the things. So I was prepared to be like, okay, I guess we're done early today. Like I didn't know how it was going to go. And then you stood up and you did that. And the whole room was wrecked. Like we were bawling because, those are nice lyrics and stuff. But when she sang, the pain of being someone who kept, sacrificing everything, doing everything that she thought a good girl should do to get something out of that damn vending machine. Like we were all there with her in the pain. And then she told us why, like explained everything. And oh my gosh, everyone was bawling. And so when she looked up, everyone was like stunned. Like, what do we do? Who said what?
There was just like,
it was silent. It was silent. And so then she like curtsies and the curtsy was like the cue for my facilitator to jump forward and be like, no, we can't curtsy. Could you stand up there? Because
you're not done yet.
You need to get feedback like everyone else has got. Like, since you're opting in, you get to opt into because I really want her to hear what had transpired for everyone in the room. And so then she got back up there and we gave her some feedback. And then what was it?
There was a lady that was writing a book. She had come to the retreat. She was just sitting over in the dining area at the table. She wasn't a part of our group, but she was there to write her book, work on writing. And she said, I know I'm not a part of your group, but your story moved me so much. And she said, while I was listening to it, I thought of a song, and I'm not a singer, but I'd like to sing it. And she began singing, I have bad days and I have hills to climb. It was a song I had been known for since I was a teenager. It was the song that, like, when I would show up somewhere, they'd go, oh, Tammy Molander's here in the crowd. Where's Tammy? Could you come up and sing God is so good to me? So it was like going back. And so I started singing it with her. And when I hit the chorus, God is so good to me. He is so good to me. All of a sudden, it was like I was back there. And I fell down, and I didn't want to be there, because going back there, I mean, the way that it made me feel, it was too much, and I fell to the floor.
On a pile of electrical cords.
And I'm sobbing, just sobbing and sobbing. And all of a sudden I see movement, and the electrical cords are being pulled out from underneath me so that my tears don't start some kind of spark or something. But I'm in so much pain. And I thought, I haven't felt this kind of pain in a long, long time. Why am I feeling pain? What lie am I believing? What thinking is the source of this suffering right now? And the thinking was that to be used of God, you had to be willing to suffer. And I'd spent my life suffering, and I was not. And I thought, no, I know a new God now from dialoguing with him, and that's not my truth anymore. That is not. And soon as I realized that's not my truth, I don't believe that. That's not it. The tears dried up, the pain went away, and I stood up. Well, slowly stood up.
Did you curtsy again?
No, because I stood up and I'm looking at Amanda way across the room, leaning on the exit door.
That was really cool.
And it was like, movie. It was like movie, slow motion, prompt the music. Na-na-na-na-na. Should I go or should I stay? I could see she was like, let me out of here. Oh my God. But my first was, I stood up and looked at everybody and I'm thinking, oh my God, I just did that in front of all these strangers. I'm so humiliated. And then I looked over and saw she was way over there. And I'm like, how do I breathe? Like, I just wanted the floor to open up and drop me. That was like, great job, girl.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know at what point that happened. I do know that when you stood up, I was in the kitchen area. And then by the time you had finished singing, I think I was over by the door. And I remember it was the first time, you talk about like dialoguing with God, and this is one of the reasons why we had to write this book together with all these clients, because it was an invitation for me, because I really went in there thinking I was just helping people with their writing. And when I saw you on the floor, I was like, oh, true to intention. This is about more than getting the messages right and keeping them true. This is about the people. And I actually heard the voice that I had been feeling cut off from for almost a decade by that point. So I'm standing by the door and I hear the voice say, well, you are by the exit door. You could go. And I was like, I can't go. There's a woman bawling her eyes out on the floor. I have no idea what to do, but I know that leaving is the wrong thing. And so, yeah, I mean, it was an epic invitation for me. And, I think that, it was all so perfect. Every person in that room, was just one of those, like at the end, I just remember cleaning that retreat up and thinking, everyone had gone and I was packing everything up. And I just remember thinking like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? Like, really, what is this? Because yeah, we had some people talking about their stories and having some tears and those types of things. And I knew I expected that, but I didn't expect the massive upheaval and the breakthrough that happened. And so yeah, quite the invitation you were for me back then, and continue to be.
Well, so because I didn't get to do any of the work, I thought I asked her if I could come back to the next one and support her. And I just wanted to hear what she had to say from a free mind, a mind that was open now, and I could hear and kind of do the work on the side and figure out what. By that time I realized, what I want to do, because it came out of my mouth. I want to teach people how to dialogue with God and how to get to know God so that they can know who they truly are, because that's where we find out who we are, and so that became my mission. And, I developed a business called Hungry Hearts for God, and, was going to be coaching and teaching and all that good stuff. Yeah. None of which is where I am right now, but that's a whole nother story, right? The
Yeah.
stories
How
behind
that
the stories.
happens.
Huh?
I said, funny how that
Yeah.
happens. I don't know if
I
you
Yeah.
haven't heard that one before.
No. Hey, Teddy, quick question. I was sitting here thinking about, as you were telling your story, that you came in and you were singing, and that was your going back. So did you plan on telling that story?
No,
Or, okay.
it just that was all I had in my mind. That was just jumbling. Was all I had was that song, and so I said, "Well, that's all I have. That's what I'll give. That's my story. My heart, oh God, hungers after yours. That's my story." But when I finished singing, it
You were
just
right there.
opened me
Oh.
up, and it all came out, my story. Yeah.
So I remember earlier you were talking about like your original book that you wrote before you got to my mom and just wanted her to help you publish, right? Which you obviously didn't publish. That was something else, is more fictional-ish, like you said. What was the point when you kind of realized that it needed to be something different? Was it related to that moment where you told your story?
No. Well, that happened at the retreat. And then after the retreat, when I'm thinking about what I want to write because of what came out of me, then I realized, oh, I want to write a book that teaches people how to dialogue with God. And so after the retreat that I served at, the next retreat, and we were cleaning up, I said, well, here's what, and I had laid out, like she had shown everybody how to lay out I had laid it all out. I mean, it was beautiful.
One
It was
sticky note at a
beautiful.
time.
It was beautiful.
And she said, where's your story? And I mean, again, the trigger, like, I don't have my story. Like, I am a teacher. I write curriculum. I don't do story. And she and I, over the years, over like a good part, I'll tell you what, it was several years, wasn't it, before I realized. So
I feel like it might have been this year. I feel like it might have been a
really
whole decade for
yeah,
you.
I
to,
think
like,
it was
really
a
own it.
decade. Yes. I it was the beginning of this year. So it was a decade later that through all this true to intention healing process and through story writing and, because everything Amanda offered, I went to, and, I've been to the 21-day thing several times. And anyway, it finally occurred to me that that's what I am, is a story writer. I write story. And in fact, my first book manuscript that I brought to that first retreat was a fictional story. It's like,
Can't
you
make it
can't
up.
make the story up. No, it took all those years. And so I was a coach. I had been a pastor for a lot of years. I grew up a pastor's kid. I'd been a pastor. When my husband retired from ministry, then what am I going to do? Oh, well, I've been a spiritual coach I'll just keep coaching and teaching and da 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 da. And so, I just flowed into this, what I'm going to do. And so through all this healing, and it was even in I guess we had one of those in January, February, March, somewhere in there. And then we had another one later this year. But the revelations that came out of me, that I am a storyteller. I write stories. This is who I am. And that I am an introvert. which of course I'm an introvert. What, I had two rules: I don't eat on an empty stomach, and I don't meet people I don't know. Like, that was like, no, I don't meet people I don't know. So my introvert,
She was mad. She was mad about this
M-
business
my
that we designed.
it was fighting it, and the spiritual martyr and all the belief systems I had about, okay, I'm a teacher. What do teachers do? They get up and they teach. They get up in front of a class. And I kept doing that. And then when it would end for another story reasons, I would feel such relief. And I'd think, that's odd. That's odd. But then I'd go find another place to teach, another prison, another, like, I was determined to teach because that's my passion. I'm a teacher. I've known since I was a kid. Other kids played Barbies. I played school. I was a teacher and everybody else was a student. It's just the way it was. And so it wasn't until the two retreats, I don't know what they were. They weren't 21 days. They were just retreats, writing retreats this year, that it all started coming out that I have been doing something that was so against what my inner insides wanted. And I was making myself do something I was uncomfortable with. And like, I call him my live-in life coach during one of the retreats. It was like, I was journaling and was like, well, if you never had to get up in front of a group of people ever again, and if you never had to coach one-on-one again, how could you teach? And I got nothing. And he said, well, where have you done most of your learning? Where have you felt comfortable learning? Books.
Wait. So God asked you to go back and it worked. And you didn't get mad at him. I just want to clear that up. I just want to.
Well, I've gotten used to going back. You kind of
broke you
got me in that groove. Yeah, broke me in real good. But yeah, it was like, because I had a horrible experience in school. I was bullied every day. And I loved learning and I loved education. There was no way I was going to go to college. I never wanted to step on another campus again in my life. So that door was closed to me. So the only way for me to learn was books. And I bought books. I learned all kinds of stuff from books. And it was like, duh, I can teach by writing books. No, that's not what it was. It was, duh, what I love to do is write stories.
Yeah.
I can teach by telling stories. And he was like, yeah, you guys call them parables.
Oh, yeah.
Like, duh. It's been happening for
The best-
years.
The best teacher of all time chose story, didn't he?
Yeah. So that's been so liberating for me. I feel so excited. Like, I am buzzing with, I know who I'm now, and I was like, gosh, you could have let me in on this 10 years ago.
No, but
10
what
years ago, you were not ready.
Yeah, because we were telling you.
You were telling me.
We were inviting you and you weren't ready.
Yes. And I was not ready. And my teacher, like, if you've been a teacher and a minister and you've taught like that, like, the things that I wrote would be really like preachy, teaching things.
Do this,
and
do this.
Yeah, here, and a curriculum, and anyway, it was like, it still wasn't happening. Can I just tell you that once I got who I am and that I love storytelling, and this is what I'm called to do, I am a storyteller. I just finished a whole book in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I kind of hit out. And it's all story, all story. I had been working on this book curriculum for years, trying to develop it, and and in 2 weeks I wrote a book, and it's all stories, and it teaches the same thing. If somebody's willing to, it's just my stories, and they'll get it by osmosis, like parables, whatever. They'll get it or they won't. But it doesn't matter. It's just me sharing my stories, and it's freaking like almost ready to be published in 3 weeks. And here I have been, working on it for years.
Yeah.
So
But you've been working on this stuff though, like,
yeah,
because and I think that this is, for me, when I think about your story and I think about some of the most amazing gifts that I have witnessed, realizing that you had a moment when you went back and you felt all of that old pain, right? That is a huge thing for people to understand when they're getting ready to go back to help other people, right? Like, and I know there's a lot of research in it, in like trauma-informed care, that a lot of times we compound trauma when we go back to help people who are just like us, because their stuff that they're in reminds us of the stuff that we were in that isn't all quite healed yet. And so we end up pushing each other's buttons back and forth and compounding all of the trauma that we're trying to heal. And so, one of the things that I saw was this like separation that had happened for you, that you had, and I recognized it because I lived it, and I was in the same place of like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get back in my own body again?
yeah,
Because we learned things up here that allowed us to experience a real level of healing. Truth heals, and trauma gets stuck in the body. And so if we don't figure out how to get that truth into the body and get the other stuff out, then we're always kind of like using these awesome tools and skills that we get to avoid pain and the moment that we're in,
right.
which is really feeling something that needs to be felt so that it can finish processing and leave. And so you and I have been on this journey of like
Oh
watching
my.
each other, right? Like, no, hang on. I know that's a tool, but don't use it.
Right. So
Just
that's what I
guarantee.
had learned. Yeah. Through dialoguing with God. Anytime I was in pain, I knew that a thought, a belief was the source of my suffering. And I was just like, what lie am I believing? What's the truth? Okay, let me go on. And so I had gotten so used to doing that, that when I got to Amanda and she was watching me do it, and I was pushing through, it was like the production process. It was like boom, boom, boom. Like it was triggering me at such deep levels, I couldn't do that anymore. And she was saying, you need to feel this. This is a part of your story, like, but that was my biggest takeaway from that whole production process, and was surrendering to the upside down and allowing myself to feel the feelings, because I had reached a place where I wasn't suffering anymore, and I didn't want to go back there at all. And I knew how to fix it, but it was all in my body. And she saw that. And so when I surrendered to the upside down, my gosh, I was so ugly during production process, because I wasn't like getting rid of my feelings and moving on. I was allowing myself to feel them, and I was irate. I was mad. The world was, and it triggered the same thing that I had been triggered to the day I came into the retreat. And so I felt like a tube of toothpaste with a bunch of ugly in it that people were stomping on and just spraying my ugly everywhere. And I was so humiliated because I couldn't do anything about it. And she was saying, relax into the upside down. It's okay. Feel your feelings. You know, you got to feel it to let it out. And oh, mercy. Yeah. There's probably people from that crew that still kind of go, when I come around, they probably step back a little bit. Like,
They love you.
I've seen the other side of this chick. But it's learning not to use tools to get out of it and surrender to the upside down and feel what I'm feeling and let those feelings bring the ugly out of me. I'll tell you what, there's I think it's Psalm 193, something like that I read during this time, because I felt so convicted for feelings. I was raised, you couldn't be angry. I was raised all this stuff. And so my feelings were so bottled up, and I felt like I was being a bad person for feeling all this. It was terrible. And do you know David? The story about David. David, he was playing the harp for the King Saul. King Saul loved his harp playing because it soothed King Saul's soul. But then King Saul got jealous of David's success and decided he was going to kill him. And David went on the run, and he's out running from the king's armies and hiding out. And all this is going on. And I forgot where I was going. What was the deal? Oh, so this is the story behind this psalm. He's at some point, while he's hiding out, and he's tired of hiding out, he says, God, you know, for my love, this man has given me this and that and that. Let his children be vagabonds and slaves. Let his family lose this. And he was like praying and asking God to do horrible things to this man and his family. I'm like, oh, I could do that too. So now part of my little process that I go through when I'm triggered like that and somebody has just upset me is like, what do I want God to do to them? Because David did it, and David was called, God called him, referred to him as a man after my heart. Mm-hmm. So if he got away with it,
is that a part of your course material and teaching people how to dialogue with God?
Yeah, let it out.
About all the awful things we want to happen.
Judge the heck out of them, because it lets us know what's inside of us. That's the purpose. It's like, oh, this is what's in me. Okay. Yeah,
better to know than to not know.
I'll sign up for that right now if it's available. That'd be great.
Just, we're doing it all day long anyway. Just like put it down and do it with God. I do it in my morning quiet time, and I just like, yeah, this is the way I feel. Yeah. Throat punch them, knock them off their high horse.
So is that part of the process that you feel when you know it's time to go upside down?
Yes, I call it mirror work. I look into the mirror of my suffering. People are just a reflection. They're just a mirror. They're reflecting something in me, because they couldn't trigger me unless there was something in me for them to trigger. They could say the same thing to 1,600 people and I'd be the only one triggered. You know, it's in me. So I start looking and asking curious questions. Okay, what's in me? Why is this upsetting me? And I just go, however I'm feeling, you know, I take it, I just look at it curiously. Like, I let it all out, man. And part of that I learned is like, okay, what do I want God to do to him?
But I love the fact that you're curious, you know, because really that's that's how we learn. That's how we figure things out, is by being curious about things.
I'll give you a quick example.
Please.
So right before one of these retreats with Amanda this year, a very, very good friend, somebody who I know loves me, like loves me. We were talking about, we want to do our passion. We want to figure out who we are again. We go through this every so often. Who am I? Why am I here? And, what am I here to do? And he said something like, yeah, you've never looked very comfortable teaching. You just don't look like you're quite at home. I'm a teacher. I've known I'm a teacher all my life. What the heck are you talking about? Yeah. And it hurt me so badly that I shoved it out, because I continued the conversation. Like, I'm not going to let you know you just like wiped me out. But then it came up in the retreat as we were doing one of the exercises. So I didn't do the exercise that Amanda was having everybody do, what we were supposed to be writing, because this was in my face. So I started doing my mirror work. And holy Toledo, if I didn't realize, that's when I realized, oh, I'm more comfortable at home, sitting in my comfortable chair, writing stories than I am in front of people. People wear me out. I love people. I feel compassion for people. I want to help people. But I don't want to spend a lot of time with them. I'm an introvert. I don't have much to say unless I'm talking about what I want to talk about. I don't have questions. I don't know. Like, I am really have my experience of myself has been really socially awkward. So by looking into the mirror of his conversation, what he said to me, by where do I feel this inside of me? Where am I saying this to myself? Where, like just looking at that is when I discovered who the heck I am. So I could have had been upset with him because he created suffering in my life by his comment, and had a little resentment towards him, maybe even said something to him, or I could look in the mirror, the roof, and get out of it. So that is the book I've just about completed in 3 weeks, was just telling those kind of stories of looking into the mirror. I've called it A Course in Miracles. Miracles. My little course in miracles, finding freedom in the reflection of my suffering. And it's just a collection of about 10 stories that go through that process of how I've done that by my morning therapies with my live-in life coach.
I love that, though. I mean, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been amazing to witness even that body piece, and just getting clear on like, this is happening in this moment for me to feel it and let it go, and still using the mirror work. And I have witnessed like such a transformation in even your health in 10 years. I mean,
Yes.
every year around your birthday, I would get the inevitable text message that I came to kind of expect and worry about, which was that you were laid up in bed for like a whole month with some lung infection or something that was just, where is this coming from? And then you got to the bottom of that story, and you're not laid up for that month anymore. That doesn't happen.
Physical healing. I've experienced so many physical healings by saying, what is this pain here to show me? What is this injury here to show me? And exploring that. And when I, a year ago, I had, or 2 years ago, I injured my foot, and I could not put my foot on the ground at all. And when I said, what is this here to show me? I kept asking. I realized that every time somebody called and said, hi, Theddee, how are you doing? I'd say, man, I can't put my foot down. I went, oh, I can't put my foot down. That's why all these little things are turning into big things. I mean, that's a whole, you can't make this stuff up. I'll tell you. So we lived on a lake and we had a septic system and it started backing up. We'd have to clean it out. And then it was like every week we had to clean it out or it was coming back up into our house. And so we had to get a new one. And it was this big, huge process. And the day that they finished is the day I went to smash a cereal box, you know, so I could put it in recycling. And I felt a little twinge. The next day I woke up and that twinge was off the charts, painful. So I'm laying in bed. You can't make the, you know, I'm laying in bed. I can't put my foot down. And I realized there was a whole lot of hot, brown, messy stuff in my life because I couldn't put my foot down. My processing system was backing up. It was like that. You can't make this story up. It was really, yes, it was so true. And yeah, there's another part of that story I'm not going to share, but yes, it was, so that's what I'm talking about. Like the things that frustrate us, looking into the mirror and saying, what are they reflecting that's in me? Yeah. So it's a great healing journey.
It's been amazing. It's been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, it's just so important for people listening to get that clarity and hopefully that freedom that, like, when we step into the space where we want to go and change the world, we have a picture of what that looks like. And that picture is formed by stories we've read about other people, celebrities we see on TV, and teachers who really helped us. And so we have this picture of what it means to be successful at changing the world. But that was that person with that personality profile and those particular skills and strengths and weaknesses and those particular set of circumstances that made it possible for them. And it's so divergent from most of the population that wants to change the world. And yet we're holding ourselves to these pictures that are so absurd for who we really are. Like, and maybe it's a future picture. Like maybe, you know, for me, I saw myself like doing a lot of global things initially, right? Like none of that has happened. It's been 14 years since I had that vision. In fact, it seems like the opposite. I had this big vision and then I'm like actually excited about being down in the trenches with people, like doing the one-on-one work, fewer people, deeper work, right? Like it's kind of the opposite of what I initially saw, but that doesn't mean that in 5 or 10 or 20 years, that picture that I had when I was 27 won't look a lot like what my life looks like. But holding myself to that right now is like, I'm not equipped for that. I'm not ready for that. I've had a boy at home that I've been raising. I had a grandma that I was taking care of for years. If I'd been holding myself to that standard, it would have crushed me. And so when I look at your journey, I'm so grateful that you stayed with it and you stayed committed to figuring out who you really are and what you really wanted. Because every step I've seen you take, I've seen you gain so much more freedom. And
absolutely. Yeah, that's part of it. When I said, why couldn't you could have just told me this back then and like saved me all this. But the thing is, it took the healings that I had that set me free, that set me free, that set me free. Like there was just even the story bit. I kept saying, I'm not a storyteller. I write curriculum. I don't do story. You know, I'm fighting that. When the blinders came off my eyes, I had written I've written so many stories. I wrote a whole series on Bixby the Boundary Bunny for kids, all about boundaries back in the 90s. I wrote a book called We Are Champions for my work. It was illustrated and printed for my work, for the employees. It was our company's story. Hello. It's like, I'm a storyteller, for crying out loud, for kids and for the adults, the child within. I love to write stories for adults, you know, because I love stories. And stories like speak to us. So my point is, I fought it, said that's not who I am. I couldn't see it until I could. It's just the way it is.
Yep. Meanwhile, who you've been in the world has been someone who has been coaching, supporting, helping. All those pictures that you had that were supposed to be like this on the ground, who you are is the helper, is, you know, the person who is showing up and picking up the phone and getting the really ridiculously early morning texts from Amanda on the other coast. Help me with this situation. You know, I mean, that's who you are. And so there are a lot of people that I get to see when I meet them. I see them, like I see them, but then I see them like who they really are and what they really have to give. And I think the hardest part of being a coach, and I know you experience this too, and I think we all do in a certain sort of way, is when you see someone for who they really are, and then you witness that they can't see that for themselves yet. And you just got to like hold that picture for them, you know?
See, I'd known that you were doing that for other people. I didn't realize you were doing it for me. Yeah, I've been on those conversations. Like we could see them together, what, you know, and like, but we have to let them, you know, she was like, well, you just have to let them. I learned so much about coaching because I was a coach that told people what to do. So over the years, my coaching evolved into asking better questions and all that. So I've learned so much from her. Yeah, but I didn't realize I was one of those people.
You are.
Good to know.
And it's only fair because I know you do that with me too. Like I heard
Yes,
you say
amen.
I heard you say some big bold words to me last week about who I really am. And you know, I'm still recovering from that. So still trying to see that for myself. And on that note, just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh,
You guys got some stuff to work out, don't you?
we're working it out.
Yeah. It's
Working
the
it
process
out.
of working out. You've been working
You know, that's
with each other.
The thing is that we get to the point where both Theddee and I were when we met, which is the only thing that we show to the world is what is acceptable, right? And there's a whole lot of unacceptable going on behind the show. You know, it's just like, and so like if this journey is really about being true to intention and being honest about who we are and being who we're here to be, then what do we do? How do we bridge that gap? And, you know, Teddy's presence in my life has been a steady one over 10 years, while other clients have come and gone, and some have stayed and some have become team members. And, you know, but the thing that I think that I learned with her and we have been working out is that we had to figure out how to create a safe space for ourselves with each other to be like, just let the ugly out, because the ugly was in there and we weren't really sure how to create safety in other spaces for that level of rage to be okay, right? For that level of grief to be okay. And so we've figured out how to do that with each other, and slowly kind of invited more people into that safe space of like, okay, now I think I let out enough of that it might be safe enough for me to try this with some other person, right? Like now I need to go take this truth that I got to the bottom of and take it into this other space. But that is one of the essential parts. And that's why, I have her here as part of this team. I don't say that like I figured that out. I think that our co-author was like, you're going to need this person in your life, and you're both going to have to figure out your stuff so that when you have things that are growing and more people who are showing up and more team members with family dynamics and friend dynamics and all the things, like, you need this person to be in the space with you to make sure that the safety that you've learned together stays. It remains at the heart of everything that we do. And we don't get it right all the time. And sometimes systems really mess it up for us. I mean, there's a story at the end of You Can't Make This Story Up that, I mean, we really don't have time to share it right now. You really need to read the story, because it was just one of those epic moments where our agreement to let all the ugly out
between us,
like, so this client is just triggering the crap out of my stuff, right? Well, I'm not gonna like try to sort that out with the client, because the client's going through what they're going through. So I called Theddee and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for some mirror work. I got some stuff coming up. And Theddee does it back with me because she's a reader for the books and she's a reader for this. And so she reads something that lights her up, sends me a comment that she thought was going to get into my inbox, but it went to the client's inbox. And it was a new level of ugly. I mean, it was like, you did it. You got to the bottom of that pain and you got it all out on that paper, and it was glorious. And so part of me was celebrating, like, oh my gosh, I'm so effing proud of you. And the other part was like, oh no, because this is actually in the client's inbox. We are in trouble. So yeah, I mean, that's the stuff that happens here, but we're all figuring out how to be real, how to be honest, how to take responsibility for the messes that we make consciously and unconsciously. And you're a huge part of my journey of figuring that out. I experienced it in other places, but you have really helped me to sort that out on the ground in real time at retreats.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It is like, if somebody doesn't have a safe place, what I want to say to you, there are safe places. And what makes it safe for me is if my husband triggers me, and if your husband doesn't trigger you, I'm not sure what planet you're on.
Are you married?
You're probably not married.
You're not, but people that are closest to you can trigger you the deepest. Yep. And knowing, because I, as a pastor, I never said anything negative to my mom about my husband. I certainly wasn't gonna say anything to the people that I was leading, and I didn't even feel comfortable sharing it with like another pastor's wife or something. I just wouldn't talk about my husband. But see, my husband has been a gift in that he periodically, he's this wonderful man, and periodically he triggers that deepest trauma in me. And I have a safe place that I can go knowing she's not taking it to be about my husband at all. It's not about my husband. I can spill out the ugliest stuff, knowing that in the end, when I'm all done, she's going to turn around and ask me a question that brings it back to me. This is what we do. And I tell you, it is It is the most precious thing. I encourage everybody to find somewhere that you can do that, because it is such a healing in just being able to do that. There's so much healing in somebody just witnessing your pain.
Find an ugly buddy.
An ugly
There
buddy.
we go. An ugly buddy. She's my ugly buddy.
Ugly buddy.
That's awesome.
Sounds like a new story.
Get
Like
an ugly
another
buddy.
story, another book that needs to come
The
out.
ugly buddy.
I
Yes.
think we just found the name of this.
Oh, look. Did you see what she just did? Did you see that look on her face? She was like, I'm going to go get my computer right now. and
Yeah,
go
I-
write that." I saw that.
She
You were
lit
like,
up.
I'm looking around for my computer, but I'm looking into it. Alyssa, I didn't hear what you said.
Hashtag ugly buddy.
yeah.
I
There you
like
go.
it. I think we just found the name of the episode.
Yes.
Finding
Even
your
like an
ugly buddy.
doll or something, you know.
There you go.
Well, my last question was really what's next for you, but I feel like we just answered it. Ugly buddy.
Ugly buddy.
Due out in spring 2022.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
make an epic children's book.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
what's
if
really-
little
so let
kids
me-
felt that way. Like if little kids felt safe enough to say, "Can you be my ugly buddy right now?" Like, oh, the world would change so fast.
Yeah, because we're trying to be what's acceptable until we get triggered and we're not, our Christianity and everything goes out the window. Our tools, everything goes out the window, and we need an ugly buddy.
Yep. Well, thank you for being mine. And
My
everyone
pleasure.
in this community thanks you too. Even if they don't know it, they are grateful for you. And thank you for sharing your story today. We literally have like more than a decade of stories. We could sit here for like days talking about all the hilarious things that we have walked through together, the hilarious and extremely painful things that we've walked through together. But thank you. Thank you for being who you are in my life and being who you are in this community. And I don't know what I'd do without you. So before I get all emotional, I want to thank you all for listening to today's episode of Sips of Story and Sanity. It's a new podcast. If you like what you heard, please consider subscribing. Consider leaving us a review. Maybe share your own ugly buddy story. Like, why not? Maybe we'll
Both intentional and unintentional.
Yes.
Ugly buddy stories.
Oh,
I have
there you
found some funny ugly buddies in bathrooms. While I'm like in a bunch of tears, hiding some of my most important safety moments happened in stalls.
go.
Kind of funny. Interesting, right?
That is a whole nother level of, yeah. That's
Yeah, I'm in there
true.
dealing with my stuff.
How many
And,
times
Mhm.
we're hiding out in the bathroom and somebody shows up just the right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what our new book, You Can't Make This Story Up, What If It's All Happening for Us, is all about. It's launching in January 2022. So check it out at truetointention.com, and we hope to see you in the next episode. Thanks for being here today, all of you. That's a wrap.